What happens when you connect the ideas and energies of artists with the needs and opportunities of communities? It's something I've been asking for a long time and exploring for 40 years. I remember back in high school, I was given a book to read my senior year. It was Howard's End by E.M. Forster. And, I wasn't really excited about reading a whole big book, from a century or two ago. But when I opened the book, there were two words on the frontispiece that have stuck with me ever since, and I've lived by these words. And here's what they are. Only connect. And, that could be taken in a lot of different ways. But for me, as an artist, and I later moved to Minneapolis to study art, and I got out of art college, and, I had some acting background. I had a lot of visual arts background, and I was interested in doing something other than just hanging my art in galleries and trying to sell it, make a living that way. And I was very lucky to get hired through the CETA program, a federal job training program, that for 1 year put 60 artists to work, both in their studios and in the community. And they said, Jack, you're going to be a gallery director for City Art Productions. And they gave me a desk and a phone at City Hall at the Minneapolis Arts Commission. And then they said, Jack, there is just one catch. They said, there is no gallery. They said, the city is your gallery. And your job is to organize exhibits of CETA artists at the parks and the library and the government centers and the plazas. Now here's your desk and your phone, now go for it. And so if you think about it, it's sort of like Shakespeare, all the world's a stage. It is true that the city is a venue for artist creative expression. And my job was simply to connect the artists on one hand with the spaces in the city and the audiences that come with them. And it was a little bit like computer dating. What kind of artists want to meet what kind of audiences with what kind of messages? And my job with this phone at City Hall, it was very empowering. People actually returned my phone calls for the first time. And this is empowering. I recommend to artists all the time. You just say you're calling from City Hall. But I started to learn more about this field of public art. And I learned that public art is really more than just murals, monuments, and memorials, or the occasional mime. That there's temporary public art, and there's permanent public art, and there's the process of engaging audiences and the making of, and then there's the products and the things that we see in the landscape. And really the process is just as important as the product. And the kind of top-down public art where people have the money, hire artists to make things for them, versus the bottom-up public art, this incredible grassroots effort of creative people in the community finding their creativity and matching it with needs in their community. And I think that's a really interesting area that needs more research, more study, and more support. I got involved with a nonprofit organization with some of the CETA buddies called Forecast, which is basically about doing this connecting of artists on one hand and these incredible opportunities outside of traditional venues for them to reach audiences and make a difference and get exposure for their work in ways that they would never have if they pursued a traditional career. But sometimes for artists, it's a matter of scale and thinking much bigger than they were in their studios and really taking to heart this idea that the city can be a canvas. It can be as big as a whole city. So artists like Yvette Materne from Puerto Rico just did an installation in Tulsa, Oklahoma, at a park that just opened, and they were trying to make sure everybody in the city knew where this park was. And her global rainbow laser installation could be seen from all over the city and pointed the way for people where the new park is. So Yvette took to heart this idea that the city is a gallery, and she embraced it. For my own work, I moved out of the gallery and started thinking about other ways to do connecting with materials like elastic tied to an elevator, a bar on top of an elevator, and the other strands to a beam in a building. And when the elevator goes down, it stretches the elastic. And when the elevator goes up, it relaxes in front of the elevator, and you can look through all these strands. And this building owner let me use his elevator to do this installation, which I called Attention Span. And it got some attention. In fact, when the elevator repairman showed up in a couple of weeks, he goes, what's going on here? What's this lingerie thing doing tied to the elevator? The building owner goes, oh, it's a great piece of art. I love it. He goes, look, you better take that thing off of there. I think it's impeding the operation of the elevator. And the guy goes, no, I want to leave it. And he said, look, you either take it down, we're going to cancel your maintenance contract. And one of the best compliments I ever had, he said, well, go ahead and cancel my contract. Well, word got around back at the elevator company that some rubber band thing was tied to the elevator, and the building owner wasn't going to take it off. And I guess the woman who worked there came to see it. She was their communications person. I remember getting a call, and this was back in 1984. I get a call out of the blue. Are you the artist that did the elevator sculpture? And I said, yes. She goes, oh, well, I'm over here at the building looking at it. It's really interesting. Could you maybe send me some slides? They were slides back in those days. Anyway, I sent her some slides, and the next thing I knew, it was on the cover of Elevator World magazine. And I thought I had a whole career in doing elevator sculptures then. But I've also pursued the idea of interactivity and artists making works that audiences interact and activate. So this is my DIY fountain. It's basically a bucket and a rope tied to the railing of a bridge, and the rope's just long enough so the bucket will reach the water below. And in this case, people would just walk up and start pulling the rope, and then find there's a bucket full of water from the Mississippi River, and look at it, and then they realize, I can see the river water up close. And then they make their own fountain, and they throw the water off the bridge and watch the water disperse into these beautiful, sparkly patterns on the water below, and realize with a bucket and a rope, you can make your own fountain, and just people will line up to pull on the rope and throw the water. I don't have it copyrighted, so feel free. But I've also been studying what have other artists done, and what is the impact that public art has in communities, and what if there were more people who could connect artists with the needs and opportunities of communities? So artist Jack Mackey in Seattle created these dance instruction steps in the sidewalks, and it's kind of like an anthropological experiment. People walk by and they see these dance steps, and what are we supposed to do here? Move around? And you think at some point, if you were watching from a distance, an unsuspecting couple might walk toward these and then start dancing. Say they're out on their first date. They fall in love because they're dancing now. They get married, they have kids. Public art can change your life, I'm pretty sure of it. But in relation to the giant laser installation, the whole city can see this is public art in a more intimate, emotional state that prompts a behavior, right? The rope and the bucket, or push the button of the elevator, it goes up and down, you activate the artwork. You realize that the artist is setting up an opportunity for the audience to engage in and actually complete the public artwork. So there are art car parades. People decorate their cars and go on parades. And it doesn't mean you have to even be an artist, right? We all get to participate in public art. We all get to be part of the chorus. Some of us have a better voice than others, and artist Jan Elfman is an incredible art car artist. Here's the camera van. How outrageous can you make your car and drive around town? I guarantee you it's going to be a conversation starter, and people maybe get inspired to decorate their own cars. And how can public art be something that engages the entire community? So when Heart of the Beast does their puppet and mask May Day parade every May Day, they get hundreds of people in the community to participate, creating floats, creating costumes, being part of it, and 40,000 people join in a festival at the end of the parade. This is public art and participatory culture on a grand scale. What about a shopping mall that wants to change the way people see shopping, and they commission an artist to create a work of art for an atrium? So this is the artist Hot Tea, who created this piece called Hot Lunch at the Mall of America, 14,000 strands of colored yarn. It totally transformed the space. It got incredible social media attention, and it gave a reason to go to the mall other than shopping, and it gave the mall a reason to get people there that maybe a lot of shopping malls that are suffering now because of online shopping are thinking, we need to reinvent ourselves. So you see, it's a win-win deal. The artist gets the exposure, the mall gets to bring in audiences and reinvent themselves. There's a mural that just got completed in Northeast Minneapolis at the Sheridan School with Good Space Murals, working with artist Drew Peterson. And I'm going to tell you, it's this arts magnet school that's been around in the neighborhood for a long time, and most people have no idea what's going on in there. But these artists work with every student in the school to create parts of this mural, which end up on the outside of the school. These are just details of this gorgeous mural, which I encourage you to check out if you're in Northeast Minneapolis. But the only way to see it all is really from the air with a drone. That's how big it is. But it screams to the community, look what's going on inside this school, and shares it with the outside. And the civic pride not only generated from the students and the parents and the faculty, but also the community that now feels like the school is more of a neighbor that they can tell the story of than they knew before. Or taking a HUD house that's going to be torn down in Houston. These artists, Havel Ruck, Dan Havel and Dean Ruck, created this Fifth Ward Jam, where they took the wood out of the house and made a stage as a platform for a neighborhood to use in the summer as a performance space. Or a rocket ship playground structure at South Minneapolis that was going to be torn down because it didn't meet code requirements anymore. And the neighborhood fought to say, no, save our rocket. And they formed a group called the Rocket Boosters. And we helped them find artist Randy Walker, who created this incredible sculpture out of the rocket ship, not for climbing in anymore, but for as a landmark sculpture and a wayfinding device in the neighborhood. Or Amanda Lovely, who's been an artist in residence at the City of St. Paul, helping city planners learn what community members really want and need so they can create the kind of plans that a city needs, because let's face it, everybody doesn't go to community meetings and express what their concerns are. So Amanda came up with this idea, kind of based on the idea of an ice cream truck. Let's take the questions and the surveys to the community and offer them a pop at a pop-up planning activity. And in addition to giving people a popsicle, they could ask questions and get input from community members about what were the real concerns, what's going on in your neighborhood, what would you like to see the city doing more. And more artists are finding themselves in residence at city halls and working with city planners who are in the middle of helping cities not only take what's learned, but look ahead to the future and think about the health of the city through the lens of creativity and how artists can contribute to the information that needs to be collected so everybody's voice is heard. This is a polar bear made by an artist, Don Cannell, out of Santa Fe, called The Long View, and it's made out of used car hoods. The hoods off of automobiles. He was trying to make a connection between the carbon emissions and the problem of climate change and the impact it has on wildlife, including polar bears. And this polar bear is standing in the desert looking out and getting the long view. And this piece was so successful that he was invited to show it in San Francisco during the Global Climate Summit. And it made the cover of the San Francisco Examiner. This is one of the powerful things that public art can do for artists in terms of their visibility and their ability to raise awareness of issues that sometimes are not talked about in ways that might incite action. Candy Chang, who's an incredible artist, I'm a huge fan, and she's a TED Fellow, so if you get to see her TED Talk, please check it out. But her Before I Die murals are another kind of DIY mural. It's a stencil kit you can order. You use blackboard paint on plywood, and you put the stencils up. Before I die, I want to, and it comes, you can add a cup of chalk. People take the chalk, and it's sort of like the idea of, hello, my name is, and you write your name. Before I die, I want to, and you fill in the blank. And you fill in the blank with what's on your bucket list. What are some of your dreams? And the people in your community that get to participate with you or see the dreams and aspirations of people in their community, they all get together, creates a conversation piece. And it's not about the artist and their signature. It's about the artists giving voices to the unheard voices in our communities. And that public art is completed by the audience and the public. So here's the point. We're all part of the public art ecosystem. You are all participants, okay? Public art doesn't work without the public. What are ways you can invite artists to the table? If you don't know any artists, ask around, and I'll be surprised if you find an artist and say, would you be willing to come to a meeting? We're trying to address this problem or that problem, whether it's the environment, social service issues, health care. The list goes on and on. You could say public art is a solution to some of the problems, and artists are creative problem solvers, but still we have to go back to that question. Only connect. So when you invite artists to the table, you might also consider taking them to lunch. Thank you.